Sanje Chedan Sojan Janjo Bado Dane Japsuche Aje Chujen
Dolam Pantu Sange Tupa
Sanje Chedan
Soki
Janjo
Janjo
Bado
Bado
Dane
Dagi
Aje
Gapsuchi Dagi
Chujen
Chen Gige Tokanki
Dola
Dolam
Benjo
Pantu
Sanje
Sange Tupa So
Nanje Chedan Soje Sona
Gitonam La Janjo
Bado
Bado
Dane
Dagi Gapsuchi Dagi
Aje
Chen
Chujen
Gige
Sona
Tokanki
Dola
Dolam
Benjo
Pantu
Sanje
Sange Tupa So
Danje Chedan Soje
Sogi Chonam La Janjo Bado Dagi Gapsuchi
Daje
Dagi
Chujenje
Junin Gipe
Sonanje
Tokanki
Dola
Dolam
Renches
Pantu
Go
Sange
Bara
Tupa So
Dayantan Gade Gade
Okay,
Para
Paragate,
Para
Para
Sundate
Sumgate,
Bodhi
Bodhi
So
Swaha.
Dayantan Gade Gade
Gate, Gate,
Para
Paragate,
Para
Para
Sundate
Sumgate,
Bodhi
Bodhi
So
Swaha.
Dayantan
Dayata,
Gade
Gate, Gate,
Para
Paragate,
Para
Para
Sundate
Sumgate,
Bodhi
Bodhi
So
Swaha.
Hola Son Ya Simja Tamjega Dondo Tobjalana Macheba Sanje Komaran Bocha Chineja Tobacha De Chedo anyway Janjo Semba Lamjana Tuishin the Nyansulang Lawala Shingo Shimbala Tugo Tuala Tujishu Manoa Jigotu that goes about the end gazette Chambushua like Sebe and the Junju Shindi and that Desha Chibi some jet.
So, and we begin as we normally do by setting our motivation, a motivation to attain the peerless state of enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings through perfecting all the trainings on the Bodhisattva path. To perfect those trainings in turn, we must have a good understanding of them. And to gain that understanding, we must be able to rely upon a non-mistaken source of these trainings. Thus it is that we are here this morning to hear just from such a valid source, the King of Mind Training texts known as the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, as composed by the great Master Shantideva. And we are here to hear a brief explanation on some of the verses of that text today.
Anything that you can do, and to social set up and what the luck to the chicken was what you Chia to Tango, Rangi Tungi Nakala, and more and getting the Lama number, Tabjela to with number, Lama to be on which is set up.
And as we normally do as well, we begin by setting up the merit field in the space in front. A merit field which consists of, in fact, our own root guru in the aspect of the Munindra Shakyamuni Buddha.
Set up. And the Rangi Tagoda, Rangi Tincha, Majing Simjatan, set up.
And we visualize in the space all around us all kind mother sentient beings.
Then the Lama to be on board and the Casore and the Sheji Chani, yes, I knew, yes, I knew Yam Jacket Tendo, to the Kavel, who said Namakula, Chugu will make a doja, so I wanted to combat.
And the figure of Shakyamuni Buddha that we are visualizing in the space in front has one face and two hands, is seated in the Vajra posture, as the one hand, the right hand actually touching the earth in the earth touching mudra, and the left hand in the meditative equipoise posture holding an alms bowl filled with nectar. The figure is dressed in the saffron robes of a monk.
And then the Lama to be on board and the Casa Jiwo on cover, Jamba Armor, Tuga home set up.
Then we visualize that the figure of Shakyamuni Buddha is marked at three places: that at the crown with an Om syllable, at the throat with an A syllable, and at the heart center with a Hong syllable.
What and then the legend and took a one and because we are part of what. The Negasa the Tuga Hole was a part of Mebatona, and then Sing Raja Nebe, and the Casa and Ishiba, only the Cheba Chant, and Ishiba, the Lama to be on the Nova Chant tip, or their uncle, Chulama, Jesu never Miguel, we can't tell the commercial.
and that then countless rays of light emanate from the Hong syllable at the heart center, going out into the pure realms and inviting back the wisdom beings and the empowering deities. The wisdom beings dissolve into the central figure, and the empowering deities confer the nectar of empowerment, some of which then overflows at the crown, spontaneously producing the figure of Akshobhya.
다 25고 수는 아니 라지 semje 탐제게 아니 가서라 다 가제 조사 지장에 때도 한다 쇼스서 어디다 공부하자 아니 대대 라마 투여 공부디 아니 가서라 다 가제 구이연데 송구연데 투구연데 틀레게연데 다가는시 나라도 돈다라 투죠 나라도 돈다라 람라라 나라도 돈다라 오바서 산제 되겠지 Today in Baza, Ranchi Batangela Tewa, Shantideva Tewa, Keva, Kula Tuja Nirimba Juba, Panta Mata Tamjego doing taking Takaja Rangas, Tumbe Yunde, Shinga Yobatigate, and Shinga Yobatigate, and a bit take up Kantuduga, Motovacha, some take a let to a check. What any Tendega Yunde Toya, and Tavetava, Mundugatava, Ijigatava, so what can't do it get a combat.
And so we are aware that, especially with the dissolution of the wisdom beings into the central figure, that here is the one who has really fulfilled the purpose of self and others, and has gained all positive qualities, and has completely and utterly eradicated all negative qualities. That the Buddha, we reflect on the enlightened qualities of a Buddha's body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. And we also understand that such an enlightened being has developed that mind of enlightenment for our sake, has proceeded on the path for our sake, has manifested full and complete enlightenment purely for our sake also. That such a being has no fear in relation to suffering with regards to themselves, is skilled in means in removing the suffering of others, who works for others with great compassion without a shred of bias, and who benefits all, regardless of whether there is any benefit in return. So in really reflecting on all the kind of wonderful enlightened qualities of such a being, then this faith, pure faith, the manifest faith, the faith of conviction arises, and we try to give this agency as much as we possibly can to develop this deep sense of appreciation for the qualities of the enlightened being.
And be Yishiba Shun Yetiget. And dear Gasu, Chikaso, Tube Doga, not so much then. And Simjig come to me, but not so much that Dilla Babe, and be Tuba not so much hard Dreshiba. And the Gasha Simjig Gaso, Katakacho, the Gimba Joachene, Tuba Sweet Dune, Duma, and Gasha, part Tuba. In the General Castle, Takanja, Chig Castle. That 24 hours 7 days that Chikasole subject to and doing the Tuba Pan Nasobat. That Tuba Nasobat subject Kim Mamiba member George and Yasu Yakasha partner, give me budget, member and Caso give member George. What are the nigger top not so back on it and the subject to session? What did you think of compassion?
And in the dissolution of the wisdom beings into the central figure, we must visualize not a stationary statue-like figure, but a very vibrant, live presence of the Buddha, of the enlightened being, where there is this thoroughfare of action going on with emanations, various emanations moving out to ripen those beings who have not yet been ripened, and to further ripen those that have been ripened. Then others, having fulfilled their purpose, coming back into the central figure, And this very busy 24/7 sense of action in the space in front of us, that this is going on, whereby the Buddha now fully, of course, a fully enlightened mindset, we're using a variety of means according to what is necessary to ripen the minds of beings and to further ripen those that have been ripened. And so this is continuous as we try to visualize this as a continuously vibrant kind of intersection and thoroughfare.
어딜리자 아니 랑게 타고도야 아니 랑라 진체베 아니 지가서 세디 파마네 제베 세디 파마 띵가마 저 토마메보나 랑게 등이 잡에 마기가 심제 탐제 근데 마서와메 봐요 섬자 다 파마 제베 가서 진치고 파마 마제베 가서 진치고 이게 마기가 심제 탐제 로다 코알레 네베 가서야 랑게 디기 중사 아니 코알레 탄네 타바다 탐제 제베 두베게 아니 그서 조사티 장치사 로다가자 유케버제 오다가자 어든지 코알레 네베를 디기 중사데 코알레 대외게 네 타바다 탐지키면 고마도베게 아니 가서데 다 가서 가서데다 가서데 쟁기 정경게 아니 진체외게 아니 마케게 심제 마서메바요 삼사차.
And so all around us are all kind mother sentient beings, and that these are the parents, for example, of this life, of the one previous to this, of the one previous to that, going right back to a beginningless time, and how in all situations the sentient beings have been unbelievably kind to us, whether within cyclic existence or facilitating our liberation. To be able to gain out of cyclic existence, and to kind of like their capacity to enable us to purify negativity on the one hand, to accumulate positive merit on the other, and thereby becoming a special basis of merit for us in all their manifestations, and that they have engaged in this sustained benefit for us since beginningless time until now.
어딜리자 아니 대다 심제 대다 탄자자 아니 랑다 고kun에 송아인 거지 대화 되자 대화포 미대바 등에르데 미대바 등에르데 아니 찌게 되는 찌는 용되겠지 근데 임바 인자 심제 대다 탄자 등에를 나와라 미쇠베 닝제 대화다 된도게 잡아 아니 등에다 대화 어딜 공부하셔 아니 공부하셔 아니 대다 등에 탐자다 대화다 대화 탐자의 대화다는 녜지기 학생께 다 소소 지가 줘도 다 제마도 봤어 버려 아니 수의 제도자라서는 랑게 되나 세대베 라메토베 온보 이 고바토는 아니 제도고 요래 가서는 되제 된 제스도 가서도 된 제스도 다 간자제 가서래 어디 가서 내로 땡제네 아니 감다 매바다 처음에 내로 땡제네 아니 가서 되제 된 제를 들려라고 들려셔 제단지 매바 인사 아니 감다 매바 감다 매바 되게 되게 지다와시는 마시나 편도 두고 요 말고 근데서 되게 편도 와라 아니 심제도 투제 람랑 공부서 산제베 랑게 되나 세데베 라마 투베고 공부 좀 맞다면 타면도 뒤 토바지기 상사 공부하셔
And so we're also aware of all the sentient beings all around us, who, like us, they want happiness and they do not want suffering. That is clear. Even though they are bereft of the former and inundated with the latter, the sufferings that they do not desire, that seem to come one after the other. And so here we, of course, develop this sense of compassion, focusing on that suffering, and develop that sense of love, focusing on their desire for happiness. And as we reflect on this, we can see also that we want to do something about this. We want to remove that suffering. We want to place them into every happiness, and we take on a sense of personal responsibility for that. I will be the one who will do this. But as soon as we have said this, we realize our own incapacity at present, and then look around to see who has that capacity. From what vantage point does one gain that capacity? And the answer comes very, very clearly. That is the one we are visualizing in the space in front, the Guru Manindra Shakyamuni Buddha, the state of enlightenment itself, because only from that perspective do you have the understanding of the varied dispositions and aspirations, the karmic propensities and so on of such a variety of sentient beings. And therefore, you have the capacity to prescribe what is, accurate for each individual. And so therefore, I have to set my sights. I see actually there is no other way but to attain that state of enlightenment. Why? In order to be of maximum benefit to sentient beings.
What the imba insa, what the imba is Rani Sanja Kumamato Tamadua, the insa, and Sanja Kumba Tobala, Paja Janju said, don't need to be Sheramigi, Namne di Cheku Yore, Timajana Tablet. The imba insa, and the leg Jamni Janjugas. Rota Janju don't need to be Sherata, Janjuga said Meta Meva insa, the day insa, the day Tembe Shunta, how don't do any, Gesek Jube. Tembe shung gyaba dabo de ene chunju gu shung te ene goba di che do ta lobjo chigi yin samlo di che do ene chigi Geshe dabo ningi yin samso wo de goba chen ene lama tube obo gom shi ben ane wo de se che wo de che.
And so, having realized this, that we must attain that state of enlightenment to be of benefit to all, but also realizing in order to do so, I must gain that realization of the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing emptiness. And so these are indispensable. There's kind of no way to be able to attain enlightenment without these two. And so I realize I have a great opportunity here to listen to the King of Mind training texts, which actually details how we can gain those realizations. And so I am very eager to listen to a brief explanation from this great text. Sopran Gyatang Geju Gapgu. And a wogi chiktanakasa Niba. Niban Nobe Semi Yobe? So you'll minba.
Niba, Miteba,
Miteba.
But Tingel, Takasen, then also Comjan, and there were Tomba, there were the Donis where she was a cousin, but Susie is to watch Nansha. They don't the cars go.
Awesome. So again, first of all, I would like to answer a question, I think, from Susie regarding bliss and emptiness and the wisdom of non-dual bliss and emptiness.
They don't some down to Bayina. The Baja Shaggy something, what the some down till Lavarwa, Chetan Nagi Kitchen. In a Takaja Ganja Rang Penachachavena, Penachachavena, Tombani by some Tane, Tombanila, some Tane, and by Margin Paja Comrade, Tombani, and Tilatene, and Chicasola. Rangi Penata Chig Casole Delatene and Rangla Takacho, Lucem Nigala Takanja, Tona Chongrote, Mixegi Takan, Chig Yigi, Casodeta, Chig Casodeta, so Tachig, the watching Soroeti, then they were 90 and the Tombani seem too much. Lottie and the Tombani near too much. And then the Tombani gave a Lodia, then they were near to a church. That into the rob the Samotana, then there's Samotana, Samotanas. Taina Nag is Samotan to that, Chitangara to get the Gasola, Yamne, and it Chivola Hamiche, Chivola Hamiche, Hamiche, Dewali Atunche, atom de bawala tene ene dewe metre bane ane jiwo bami shu wala tene dewa chungwa ske shig yorma di dewa di ane tongba ni yu tongba ni la zinem ne tuba chiete la de don ni sebe ishi sig yorba
the Juala so the
ibola hami che hami de da ga je pale juye da ga so de pale juye da ga je tile kabu ge ga so de da ga so de sabyen de 이게 hami che sam male juye ane tile mabu ge sabyen de ane je atung che la samlo dan de ne atung de ya da dinge zing ge so de ja na ji de atung de ya par atung ba wala de ne 집에 함유 슈와라 되네 대화 계겐 대화 되게 다가란 게 어느 동반이를 냐바샤이지 안될 때도 녀스베 이시스 송구도와
so this bliss and emptiness is in fact a tantric term, and so it falls into that realm of secret tantra. And but in order to perhaps lay a simple imprint on the mind, and we'll give a brief explanation of how it comes about. And so the idea is here that one is meditating on emptiness, and through this meditation on emptiness is really one is able to access a more kind of a pliant sense of body and mind, where one moves into this kind of a sense of a blissful feeling within the body, which is then used to access emptiness itself. And from that emptiness, then also one is kind of like rebalanced back into that sense of bliss, and you can go back and forth between the bliss and the emptiness like this, having accessed it in this way. Now, that's a kind of a brief kind of course attitude in relation to Tantra. Now, for one engaged in tantric practice, one is concentrating on the point of death, at which point one visualizes the syllable ham at the crown, and at the navel, one is
지단 대딩 뭐 남주도네 아니 데데 곰발라 때네 아니 데데 냠네 지금 됐다 시도도야 디 냠네 제토바 중국으로 봐.
So yes, one is visualize
아통 데라 아통 야 랑다고 유겐지 콤 아통 랑다 유겐데 데네 가서 다 메트 야 데베 메트 바주네 또뭐 야 바주네 아니 메트 데네 야 바네 아니 데 메트 야 바올라 데네 아니 지보가 하미 마슈 저거 함이 마 쇼원도 안에 데니 쇼알라 때네 데 쇼알라 때네 안에 란줄라 안에 대화께 물어왔다 대화께 대화디 안에 동반이라 봐 셈샤이트 대화디 안 동반이 갈라 샤바 가서 됐다 냐바샤이트 대동 잘스
And so it's not just at the point of death, but of course one is practicing this throughout one's life to prepare for that, being able to implement it at the time of death. So the
main thing is subtle mind work of reason. Main thing. Geshe wata deve atung bar. Tambo dead ke samu tang mare. Deve atung bar ne chibe kasa de hami ma shu. Chibe hami shu ala tene ane 지금 쉬어라 때네 아니 된대게 아니 다 셈 가서도 셈 차도 주고 요래 셈 차 대화디 냠소 언디 거다 셈 차도 주도 된대게 가서도 대화디 아니 동반이 가라 셈 바이 말려가 샤샤 동반이 가라 아니 진 야대들이다 진대
So what is being attempted here is the sort of to wake up or to access the more subtle mind, and the way in which this is brought about is that the practitioners visualizes the seed syllable ham at the crown, and then one visualizes the seed syllable atong at the navel. And so one is here operating within the central channel, and what is being attempted here is that the kind of like the ham at the crown is symbolic of the holding the essence of the male seed or semen, and the atong is the one representing the female essence. And what is one initially initiates this practice through generating the inner fire or tumo. And this actually then heats up the atong at the navel center and causes it to rise up through the central channel. And as it the heat arises and approaches the up the central channel, it actually seeks to kind of melt the bam syllable, and it starts to come down. The ham syllable, and this starts to come down through the central channel, and so eventually the essence of the ham syllable and the atong syllables meet. And it is at this point then that one experiences this bliss of mind, which immediately is turned to be able to focus on the subject of emptiness. And so it's that which kind of like really leads into and facilitates one being able to place one's mind on emptiness. So, and this is all happening now within the subtle mind. And so this practice is that which really accesses or awakens that subtle mind and causes it to become manifest, to really enhance and facilitate practice.
그래서 된대게 대화 규모를 마땅하지 된대게 대화대 아니 그래서 대화 탐해와라 마땅 된대게 대화대 똥바대 주고 열와 대화대 똥바대 제형도 똥바대 제형도 아니 녀모배 녀볼 줘대고 열와 녀몽 녀모
Yeah,
가서 나중에 녀볼 줘대고 열와
yeah.
이 대화 된대게 대화대 탐해외 대화를 마땅하지 된대게 대화대 아니 지금 동반이 그 로케 주네. 동반이 로케 와라 되네. 아니지 녀몽이 줘라 만줘지 녀몽이 녀불로 줘 되게 요라. 이 녀몽 하자도帮助지.
What's key is, of course, that this bliss is not allowed to be, in kind of used in a coarse or an ordinary sense, but rather it is that which induces emptiness, and facilitates that focus on emptiness as the principle and an ultimate antidote to a mental affliction. And so this is how it is used. This is kind of the role really of this bliss.
네, 다 단ang 알아서 된데 대동 깨야 돼. 된데 다 레당보 인자 요마리 때 이내양 알아서 뭐가 이치가 돈에 삼로단에 대동 계속 삼로단 로 배나 차차바나 대와 아통 바라 지외 함이 슈네 대와께 된데 대와디 동바 대수 삼로단 대동이 소위 시죠 뭐가 이치가 삼로단에 빼미세게 된데 대동 깨게 아니 가서 대동 깨게 탑로 쳐되기로 와
And so what we are doing in of course, giving rise to this bliss and emptiness and the wisdom of non-dual bliss and emptiness, etc., is laying down a very strong imprint. It's very important for us that we are able to really identify with this process as a very powerful way of doing it, even to the point of visualizing the syllables ham and the atong, and they're kind of one being kind of heated up so that it arises, and the other melting down, and they're meeting in that center, and that producing the bliss, which immediately is focused on emptiness. This is so important to see it as a means and a way of habituating through more and more imprints like this has great auspiciousness.
다 디모가 된데가 삼로 땅마도네 배는 거서 배는 자동 칼라세 배는 드린 기부 중화 임바이나 아들 쪽부터 기부 중화 디 디야 타메올라만 되네 기부 중화 디 되네 디기 디야 기부 중화에게 근데 디기 되네 기부 중화에 로디 동반인 예주네 동반인 예주 디 대화때 대도 니스미시 삼땅토네 야부 요레스 답변은 뭐들 기부 근대 중앙에 디지 근대 중앙이마이나 간이 제일 중앙이마이나 배나 산의 중앙이마나 참장전의 중앙이만 야나 저보다 뭐 심바다 빙자다 파마다 뿌고라 소바 토네 대화 중에 나소바 줘봐 된데게 대화 대다 탐제장 탐제 대화 디 아니 동바 대토바 제바 임나 아니 디 대돈 이제 뭐 시켜서 삼사 제바 임바 이나야 편도 용거레스.
And so there's great benefit really by being able to, as it were, familiarize and apply the wisdom of non-dual bliss and emptiness in every time we have any experience of happiness, even to the point of where we enjoy a cup of tea or a good meal, or we've spent some wonderful time with a good friend, or we're out walking in nature, or any other experience where we have a sense of just the natural arising joy, that we immediately reference this bliss and bring it to focusing on the emptiness, and imagine that we're visualizing abiding in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and emptiness. This is really, really helpful, and to obviously to familiarize ourselves with this way of thinking. But the point is that we can use every moment of joy and happiness, and there are so many for us out there that we could make this into a very strong habit.
다른 것은 배나 셈마기바 중앙이네. 셈마기바 중앙디 아니 가서 유대는 주마주 제바지도 유대는 마주와 디 동바디 대화대 대돈이스만 시켜서 제도와.
And so even with unhappy moments, dissatisfaction, we can access this way of thinking also, because we can start with the notion that this sense, this moment, this feeling of unhappiness has no objective existence. It is empty of existing in that way. And from that immediate then sense of emptiness, we can lead to that sense of bliss, and that combining with that voidness again and abiding again in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. So it's very, very beneficial.
배는 가서 컨트롤사도 딱 컨트롤 마켓에서 팽금은다 컨트롤 사사도 컨트롤 마켓에서 팽금하래. 다 딜레 컨트롤 마켓에 삼는 마다 와자 컨트롤 사와의 유대의 grup도 주모도 딱지 제거다. 유대의 grup도 주모도 딱지도 유대의 마주가 니언거로 와. 유대 좀 뉴스에 봐지. 배 가서도 니언도 디 모처도 아니 디 동바제네 동바딜레 디 대화제 대화제 동바게네. And so in when anger arises, again, you know, it's like not saying anger go away, I don't want anger, and so on. This is not going to really benefit at all. But what one should be able to, at the very moment of anger, to ask oneself the hard question: is the object of my anger existing inherently? Does it exist from its own side? Does it have objective existence? And to go into the analysis to find the point that no, it does not exist even at the atomical level. And so from that moment of clarity, of that emptiness, one can access the bliss, which can rebound onto the emptiness. And again, we move into the wisdom of non-dual bliss and emptiness. Control Sawati and control Sawati, you didn't matter, and control Sagan, control sawa the Yude Maduate, Casana control Saeti, and a Shenjig, Namju Tobaina, Keja to Jashawa in the Kalechawa and Tendrik, and so tell you what. Chaja Mango Chilla Tom the control Sagadua. Mango Chilla Tom the control Sagadua, and Chaja Chona Mazova tax the control and Yoamandua. And Mango Chilla Tena Yon, they call Rawan the Madua Togodua. Rawan the Madua Tagara to the control of the Niemandua. Round the two motors at the bad edge of the Maniba Tagarangi and the Dewa Tell. And the Dewa de Tomba de Tetonis way she Kesona. Condo Yoma, the condo Saikasana, the nigger Samlo Mataja, and a condo Korange, Shukcha the Samlo Tanti Yorwa, and a quintilla for Tedechas, and a condo bear, Cotilicas, Casode, petrol in a diesel in a man, Mother Luna, condo Shukcha the Cheddar Samlo Tangi Yormada. Kondo Koran Mogari me, Tiramando to the Tumoto, Taxi Kachi Marwa, the taxi and Nigmari. Money to and a dilatena Casa what Teton is much of Kondo Tosa, Kondo Yamari. Kondo Yamari. What a kanja, Kapai in a chair, Kapai in a Tigila child, Tumela child, Kapai in a child.
And so, of course, you know, to look on when one is kind of gaining the sense of anger or how anger has arisen, again, to be able to have the wherewithal to ask the question, you know, is the anger like solely based in this object of anger? And what else is involved in the development or the arising of such anger? And, you know, the negative words, the negative actions, the negative looks, the way, you know, everything you can find that the anger has to arise in dependence upon many different conditions, many different causes and conditions. And therefore, it undermines the idea that it is actually existing independently from its own side. And so once you gain this insight, then you know you do not find an inherently existent anger. You do not find an anger, and that moment of realization is kind of like really is kind of can lead to that sense of a bliss, realizing the lack of objective or inherent existence of the anger, and that dissipates the anger and habituates the mind to being able to think like this, as opposed to, you know, too often our normal sense is that, you know, we have an object of anger that starts to annoy us, and then our thinking simply increases that sense of frustration and injustice, and we go through all the reasons that simply exacerbate the anger that is in our mind, and it's completely useless. Does nothing to release the anger, to get rid of that anger. But when we enter into the analysis that has been suggested, then and we access that bliss, which combines with the voidness, and we can abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness, then anger is gone. The anger is gone. There is no more anger. There's no more basis. It has no legs to stand on. So therefore, it kind of evaporates. And it's important to understand that we can use this meditation wherever, whenever, and it doesn't matter in whether we're happy or sad or any other situation. We can immediately turn and ask, is this incident, is this object, you know, existing from its own side, objectively existent? Go through the analysis, not finding that, not finding things even at the atomical level to exist in the way that they appear. And that is a sense of bliss that then combines with a voidness, and you can go through the wisdom of abiding in non-dual bliss and voidness. And that particular issue that you thought you had is evaporate spot.
지단 콘도 야고 말데 단대 콘도데 소설 팬도스와 So condo de la tene, so Tongbani, Rawan the Duma the Jevachi, Kugacho, Tilatin Tongbani, Samotaya Raso, Tilatin de Donga Gomja Raso, Captain Raswa, Captain Raswa.
And so, we have to see then that even anger is something that is, kind of beneficial for being able to, direct our minds to this emptiness, to seeing this lack of any objective existence, facilitating or leading to this bliss, which combines with voidness, and we can engage in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness again. And so it's something that can be welcomed, in fact.
What? Yang Lamdo Kias did it. That condition, Juma, till Lamdo Chasing much. Penna, the Chale Chigbari.
So this is known as taking.
Penna, Diocha in a Diocha Lechibaja, dear Diocha Lamdo Kennet. Diocha tea, and around the Duma the tea, Tombani, Dewake, Tetunis is you. That condition, but needs to condition by there.
And so this is known as taking the conditions onto the path, and as such, then it's not just these negative conditions, but even minds like a desire and attachment. We can then ask the same question: to what extent is this desire and attachment to self-powered? And realizing, gaining a very clear conclusion that it lacks any self-poweredness. It is completely lacking in any objective existence, and again, that can lead to the bliss and voidness.
What Don't damn it, that's Tombani Kala, and some let to watch it, and some de lever deal at and so that because of the Rota Pena, Tombani is the Munetana, Dana was a Tombani, Goara of a child, Goara of a child, okay, Toyo Marva, Tombani, Munetana, Tombani, Ting Yavani, and it did Tombani Don, the because of the similar for they were shooting on your water. That can't Munetane, Dunga Mayo, but touch on your that then they are go on to the and it will listen to the was sent them in Jungle water. And how do the Tony was on the daughter, but they was sent them in your water. Then they were the and it don't matter, they don't just make it what did it? How do that? Sheba Tata, Sheba Tomo D done, and it D and it, they were the Tomani, the Donis, she get us to Yorba.
And so it's a lot of it is being able to have that conviction in the power and the potential of the mind, to kind of have that faith in ultimate truth, where the mind can arrive at this sense of absolute conviction in emptiness, and that moving from a coarse understanding into that deep conviction that here is the solution really to all suffering. This is the ultimate antidote to all suffering. It is the great prize, as it were, and that when we talk about the actual bliss, voidness, and the wisdom of abiding in that, we're talking about gaining more, accessing more and more subtle consciousnesses, being able to go deep down and from that kind of more subtle conscious level, the body mind becomes that much incredibly sensitive, and so one is able to feel that sense of bliss through the subtlety of the mind that we are accessing. And that then is directed towards the subject of emptiness, to see the lack of any objective existence, to gain that sense of clear conviction in that, that then leads to more and more bliss and so on, and that it goes, rebounds back and forth. That means that's what's referred to as abiding in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and emptiness.
다다 맞아 대동 뉴스메베 이시세 대동에 대동 가서 냠냠코라 요 말이야. 가라도 냠냠 요 말이야. 다 빼나 동ning 모습도 또온데 동ning 모습도 또온데 아니 랑게 류네 조도 동네게 주사가 요 말이야. 아니 빼 가서래 다 가자 산지가 살아 람녀도 녀도 저거 요래. 아니 녀도 저거 요 봐도 소속에 다빼 가서래 다 무슨 도보잖아 다 서로 두고 요래. 근데 저도 다 대화 근데 줘래. 말도 남주 저거 빼나 저거 다 빼나 직대 바이나 착배 대화 잡고 되면 다 같이 물에 가고 얘다 저거 변조다 춘제다 칼라시 뭐자 된데게 대화 잡으면 시작하야 봐. 진짜 건가 대화 락바락 봐. 대화 야보 삼는다는 대사가 동해로 와. 교회 동해로 와. 다단다 그 동ning 모습도 또온데 동ning 모습도 또온데 다 빼나 저는 가서 랑게 류가 답변을 자주가 셈대 돈이 가서 팝에 가서 대바 전부 가서 잡으면 아니 류를 동네 자원이네 용아요 말스 셈을 동네 자원이네 용아요 말에 근데 산지가 살아 남녀도 녀도 좋아도 랑게 소두고 요래 답변 쉬운 전화 용고 요래 근데 대화도 근데 줘서래 아니 근데 대화 디 아니 동바 된도가 동바 디게 대화 전투가 된데게 대동스게 나라서 냠냠 요말 다 다른 것도 매바 이제그 거네 삼로단 대동 계속 삼로단 바자샤기로 봐.
And so, of course, we're not at the level of being able to experience this bliss voidness. We have no experience of that. This is, we're talking at very, very subtle levels of consciousness when one, as say, realized emptiness directly, and it's pointed out that the one who has realized emptiness directly is no longer accumulating causes for suffering. One is taken a massive step closer to enlightenment itself, and that and as such. Can you imagine the kind of a bliss that must induce when one has that knowledge or that clear understanding? That sort of bliss is far beyond what we would classify as a worldly bliss or happiness. When we get excited about the taste of some food or some experience, that this is coarse, very coarse in relation to this sense of a bliss of an Arya being who has realized emptiness directly. And so, in fact, what we are experiencing is not classified as happiness as such. It's the suffering of change. So, a direct realization allows for an automatic sense of bliss in body and mind. And there's kind of no manifest suffering. And so that capacity to experience bliss and that facility to be able to direct it to emptiness is greatly enhanced because of that. And so this is something that is really, yes, referring to those who have realized emptiness directly. Why then do we have it in a practice? It is in order for us to lay down the positive imprints on our mind. It is done. We are doing it through our, aspiration and our imagination. But nevertheless, we are able to lay down the imprints to ultimately have that direct experience of it in the future.
가봐 좋아이나 소설하와래 아니 베레 깨지지라 상계의 신 잘라 줘도 상계 민다와 자이탄의 최년 두고 요래 그래 깨지지라 아니 가서 랑게 류 자토네 섬제 자타 먹을 펜바 두고 요래 베레 사당 볼래 봐는 산지발은 동자래 되네 지자래 되네 봉자래 되네 게 두고 요 아니 된데게 연대다 된게들다 대화 가서 줘서래
And so, you know, that this for that being who has realized emptiness directly, and if they're on the Bodhisattva path, this coincides with their also arriving at the first Bodhisattva ground. And, you know, the text relate just indeed the capacity of such a being is suddenly you go into overdrive, and that you have this realization that you can go to, you know, 100 different places, that in a moment you can receive teachings from 100 teachers in a moment, that you have all of this, all of these wonderful kind of advantages. And when you get to the second ground, these are increased again by tenfold, and then the third ground tenfold again. And so you can imagine the bliss in such a mind automatically.
No,
we cannot even conceive of such a feeling. And so, yes, we are. So yes, we are the ones who are, you know, absorbed in and completely deceived by, deluded by the objects that have been assembled through science, that, you know, use so many resources of the world that can only last for a short time and leave a legacy of great harm. And this is the ultimate for us. This is we regard this as the greatest sense of joy and bliss available.
Inner quality develop what ngarazu loyu de debare wata kanje kaina mena ngarazu de deba yore iji yore ngarazu de jungnasan rawa kha yore tene za tandana samlo tane ane dedon keso samza de kande chiba ne dedon cha yore tongba samlo tane pa yu kande tongba sa tongba dile dewa keso sa dewa de tongba de dedon ni smi keso what de tandan be sa jamla dedon ke nubate what nubate de ta ke chimbo de what de.
And so we're about developing, you know, more inner rather than outer qualities. And so to access that capacity within is where we're at. And we have every hope of being able to do that and focusing on that. And this is primarily this sense of developing a subtle and more subtle understanding of emptiness, which can relate to this bliss, which can relate to the emptiness. And that, you know, to make that more and more of our habit, something that we are willing to nourish through every incident and every experience that we have.
Today is also netan gade chebana kalde chebana tongba tongba di ngale ane dewa ke samsa che ane dewa de tongba che wata de kaba ine chata kala ine kaba ine chata.
So we can apply this wherever we're at and whatever we're doing to bring to mind the fact that things are lacking any objective existence. They're empty. And from that emptiness to induce that bliss, and from that bliss to refocus on the empty. And to make this a habit of ours is something that is very possible for us.
Mobile phone mobile phone or you didn't matter you read the Matuba Yindan, the Samlota, Rama the Tuba to Cheba Chene, Mani Batagal Semsha, and the Dewate, and the Dewatomba de Tedom just Samlota.
So you can even do this with your mobile phone. The phone is something that does not exist from its own side. It does not have any objective existence. And you know, once one can go into the analysis of this, and then reaching this not finding of any such objectively existent mobile, is to place the mind on that simple not finding and of the mobile, And from that then mind of that simple not finding, that one can induce that sense of bliss, and the bliss can reflect back and bounce back into the emptiness. And again, to use that to abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
And then on self, social identity, social around to the chevache, money batagara semche, te dewate, tombate, detonjes, which gives some such.
And of course, ourselves too, you know, something that is always there with us, that we can engage in the analysis and look for the so-called, you know, objectively existent, independently existent self, to the point of that mere not finding of it. And place the mind there, try to stay with that sense of that not finding, and that then brings forth the bliss that goes back to the focus on the emptiness and the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness again.
그래서 뭐죠? 쇼가 야랑만에 건다 마 많이 봐도 다 가리 배주 땅이나 네가 유대는 좀 아주 제바체네 아니 대 동바대 대화대 대도 대동지서 이제 삼로당 가바이네 삼로당사도가 가바이네 삼로당사도가
And in fact, you know, from the moment we get up in the morning to the time we go to bed at night, we have infinite opportunities, really, wherever and whenever, the capacity to be able to inject that sort of thinking into every single moment. It's entirely possible. I hope that's a little bit clearer.
Yeah. That did some their choice what in the noted. In a get you the say, okay, was a Yamlet Jogota, Yamlet Majana Choche Yomal, that Yamlet just the image someday Kitamara, Katu Yina, Tompani Kawaii Jasadwa, Chanju Sam Kawaii Jasadwa, Ninja Kawaii Jasadwa, come to Jatu Bachena. Gartu Jatu Bachena.
And so the most important thing, of course, is that one can practice this, one can integrate this, one can actually do this. That when we talk about, you know, that it can be applied whenever and wherever, that we actually go and do this, and that we apply our compassion and our love and our understanding of emptiness and the bliss and the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness, apply it, integrate it into all of our life.
Penangara social Wayineta, social ineta, social Dunga Yungudo, Kangan Yungudo, together, have all the core is a Dunga Yungudwa, core Pala Dunga, Sula Dunga Yungudes, round Mulechen. Dunga Yungudu, Kiwamato Mavja. Oh, Dunga Yungudwa was a core Parwa. Core Pala Dunga Mana, Kaba Dunga Yungudes. Ruan. Core Pala Dunga Mana, and Sula Dunga Yungude. Dunga Yungur was Kelenche. Dunga Yungur, not core Parwas. Right. Well, Coabarwa. That did the Dunga Documentana and a Dunga Jupanta Chigurwa. Right. And a better Chigurwa. What did it?
And so that, you know, this kind of adherence to reality of whether we're with friends or we're in a difficult situation where we're happy, sad, etc., and suffering, you know, that if we're in suffering, you say, well, look I'm in cyclic existence. What do you expect? You know, this is the nature of suffering. And that here, you know, how can I, you know, expect no suffering in a reality that is in the nature of suffering itself? If I don't want that suffering, I have to isolate the causes and abandon the causes of such suffering. And this is the practical approach to take.
What the Jennifer, we the nature that to apply to a chat.
So to kind of abide in harmony with the actuality of your situation.
Nangbeche Lomango love to chat, and it can answer the Nakango, Smagi Bajan, that Nangbeche love to Japan.
And so that don't be in a situation where, you know, that you have been a long-term practitioner of the Buddha Dharma, but you're still whinging about your suffering. That is an indication that it has done you no good whatsoever.
What manager? Oh, don't younger or co was. These are not bachelor of Jaros. These are changing Yorbas.
So you just go, well, this is suffering. I'm in cyclic existence. That is, you know, par for the course. Suffering is to be expected. And now I'm going to engage in my Buddhist practice to be able to deal with it in a very wise way.
That resistance of samsara, that the samsara the resistance, the cancel GH, don't want to church Yorba. The cancel GH, the never saw it.
And so that you know, we're a resident of cyclic existence, and that what we're trying to practice is to become to kind of cancel our visa for cyclic existence.
Teacher the Chigo, teacher the what you how go watch and what that did tell to me yours. Did the cancel Nirvana, the enlightenment dos. What is it?
So it's kind of saying, yes, I'm sorry, but I'm on my way to liberation and the omniscient state of enlightenment. I need to cancel my stay here in cyclic existence.
What did it show? What the time to call it that hold it.
Voila, Niniba.
Never never samba yobala chu. Never as a never samba yube, chu me but right. Takaja the casa de Rala new gig get that time just again and Kora. Tamarazo Chicas Sobacon Pantoba Yine, social Sobacomba Yina, Tapi the Yungurwa, Yina, Korala Tachicasola. The Gachimboresi Goeben, those Korala Pemesam Yomaris, Mozola, Sobacomation, the Panto Chigi in some Kuno Yomaris, never giving some Chigi or the Panto and Chigi Yomaris, maybe, and a quite Gachimboresi Goemindus. Did the Jambayinas, remember, then they send dear take Maris Zawalia. Get it, Daddy, Nejebe, some you choose a mention. Membership the Pensona, Dagus over Chitatus.
And so we had stopped at an outline which says the second, and that is that it's incorrect for one to conclude that because the one who harms has only got a harmful intent, and therefore they can't be an object of veneration. And so we're saying that this is incorrect. And so we're looking at the how to relate to, say, the ordinary enemy, and that here that you're saying that there's no benefit at all because they only have a negative, harmful motivation to harm us. And that here, Master Shantideva is pointing out that this is an incorrect conclusion to make. And so he's saying in verse number 110, where it says, "But surely my enemy is not to be venerated, for he intends to cause me harm." But the answer, but how could patience be practiced if, like doctors, people always strove to do me good?
Other Takanja, Dingel is a Koran, Chicasole, Pella Chokunjole, Koran was a Pengo Sansa Yoma, then Arazolata, Chokunjo was a Casatati, Chokunjoti, Casa Takanja was a judge to that Gachimbo Sibayina, and Chokunjo, social town to Lembayina, social Pengo Yobainza, and Pengo Yobainza, the Sachimbo Sigi Yorbas, and they are Tade in the general Sobate while Pento to what is Sachimbo. What that did that is Tagamendosa Tabela. Jagamindos, they mison there, get a chokunjola, Pento some of Meba in a make some of the Yomar was chokunjola. Then I want to Tadilla, make some of the Dugas. Then that Tadilla, never Nege and somebody over there. Gosarota, chokunjola, no send some of Yomar, Tadilla, never Jay, and so never some of Yoba Insa, Chovat, and call it Chovacha, Yongumudus, Chovache, not Tigimus. This is Lavaina, or not? Then member nation Tadigo social member nation Pemba to some of the time Pemba to Watsana, Target Nobala Chita Jimanyabe, and Sobas of the Gurus. Sobas and the Nego Yova Inza, and Niger Jimanyabe Sobas of the Yongu to us. Takola Nege, some of the Yova, teach and a quotation with the daughter. Nege, some of Yova Inza, Narazo Soba Combat, Nege, some of Yova Inza, and then was a 7 Yamnet Yongu. Nege, some of Meba Ina. 그래서 몇번 이제 팬도에 삼로 요바 이나다 먼저 세배게 안에 가서 팬도 연구 바로 왔어. 단 내제가 삼바 요바 되게 소설 팬도고 열었어. 주변에 세배 유도 유타라 근데 인사 세배 유타들라 안에 가와게 고랬어. 가와게 고랬어. 그래서 내가 삼바 요바 인사 먼저 내제를 심만이 소바 연구도 먼저本来个啥的암질라 때네 암질게 다 소재 상주 자와 때네 때네 그런 팬도 제 삼로 인사 뇌제 라 지문이 소바도 연구요 말봐 뇌제 지문이 소바서 소소 뇌바 기능을 때는 연구요도 아니 다들 뇌제 지문이 소베 팬 용해도 건 뇌바 기능을 요바 뒤 용하랬어 용 인사 되네 인사 들어 가와게 그랬어
And so and the first explanation of this verse refers to the previous verse 109, where it says, "But why should my enemy be venerated? If he has no intention for me to practice patience, then why venerate the sacred Dharma? It too has no intention, but it is a fit cause for practice." And so it's recalling that, saying that yes, that the triple gem has no that the Dharma, which is rare and supreme, has no mindset for harm, of course, but this enemy has this negative mentality that they want to harm us, and so how can they be an object of veneration? And so the reply here to this objection is that look at the actions of a doctor, that they constantly, even if they operate on us, they have no intention to harm us. Their only intention is to be of benefit to us. And so how can we learn patience in a situation like that? One has to have the kind of conducive conditions to be able to cultivate patience. And that means that we have an enemy who wishes to harm. And so rather than viewing them as somebody who is simply trying to hurt us, we look on them as somebody who is kind and extremely beneficial, because they are facilitating our cultivation of patience, and therefore we should generate a sense of joy and pleasure towards that that towards the enemy who is the object of our patience.
다 맞아. 근데 이 말이서 로아다 베나 소바들라 가서데 소바들라 가서데 뇌절의 지만이 베소바 동네 달래가 소바 뇌절의 지만이 베소바 안에 가서데 그래다 철랑게 제거 소바서 보다 소바디가 야고 신고도 안에 소바디가 되도 안에 소바 생각다 다 소베 폐 야고시 안에 소바디가 야고시마이나 안에 딜라 띵내 예바지 예바이나 안에 뇌절의 지만이 베소바데 안에 뇌바기가 되는 연구 요바이도 안에 뇌바기가 자정고 이바데 시도로 와 로아다 가서 라다 소바 코라라 몽데나 소베 폐유다 딜 몽 아니 소베 조다나 마시마이나 아니 고 개체모 이바데 신금도 왔다 소베기 소바 생한테 안에 배 가서라다 간자 가서데 까투나네 초도 줘바데 소바체 아니 소바데 아니 저 가서라다 간자 제가 소리다 간자 지금 섬제 탐제거도 산제 고바 토바라 바다 매도 미로와지 차대도 매도 미로와 차대도 아니 된지 차게도 아니 디 튕게 중겐게 아니 벨 수베나는 뇌절 지문이 소바스 깨발라 아니 너바케겐 용고도 아니 된데 너바케겐 매발라 뇌절 지문이 소바스 용도고도 된데 오다디 자치고 임바데는 개치고 임바데 신의 셰도에서도 디 몽바데 세서나 디 몽바데 예배 갑라 아니 뇌절 지문이 소바 게 팽이 맛이 아니 너바케게라 아니 소바 검사도 가보시도 와 왔다 가자 몽바세고도 몽바세바이나 아니 신에 못처네 아니 하고 되지 디야 김제 양의 양도 삼렀다는 아니 랑도 그녀와 장도 받지 고고도 와
And so, that it's important initially to really understand the different aspects of the types of the benefits of patience. We have the patience of accepting suffering, of not returning harm for harm, of the patience of accepting all austerities in the name of Dharma. That here it's kind of like when and of course understanding the great benefits of patience. In other words, it's kind of like really gaining conviction in the practice through informing ourselves, and that here to kind of get rid of any murky confusion that we have around the efficacy of patience and the kind of detrimental aspects of anger, and so it's kind of very, very important that we have the kind of understanding of where patience sits in our need to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. How actually it's quite central in being able to for us being able to proceed along that path. And so it's kind of gaining conviction in the practice itself, and then also conviction in how it's so important for us to put it into practice, to integrate it into all of our interactions, to eradicate the confusion that we have around the practice. And that if we don't, it's very hard, isn't it, to be able to apply all the teachings on patience just like that. But when we have it all backed up by this kind of valid reasoning, and to reflect on it again and again and again, we can actually start to see the veracity and the validity of patience from our own side, our own experience, and that it is a self-attained kind of conclusion that we can come to, that we're not relying on just the words of the text, but we have, as it were, justified it for ourselves. And so once we have that, then it becomes far more easy for us to apply patience in all these different situations.
가서 get our red one. That didn't talgo or what didn't talbala and a charging garzom go to. Penango shouldn't get in it and should be Yakoja Masoana shouldn't get in a tagmundua. And a Jibek Yame Yakoja Majana Jibek get in a tagmundua del Hadigua. Penango Magena Chug Della Tugumundua. Nyanjo Magena and Mudino Koala Net Chagdua. Get a tagmundua. Pena Janju same de la Nyabanye, de Yamne Jamato and now Teba Chimbu take Lambda tagmundua. They get out the redwa. Get out the redwa. Then a quarter tired Tamje Jamatobala, Tombani the Gerji redwa. Tombani Tobe Shera Magena, tagmundua. Jeso Paje do the Casura. Because get out of that, then a part of Ala Nyabado di Tendeg Sobeg Yamne Tachima Jamatona, Sobe Yamne Tachima Jamatona, and the Sobe get the Patargamundua. Targamundua or Targamundua. That the name was the net Tabala, the net Sobe Yamne Tachima Yoela, and the Soba Sungi Yamne Yabuchetu. Sungi Yamne Tachima, Sujun Sungi Yamne Yabuchetu. But that's Jundula Soba to the Redua. Takanja Rua Takanja Chibala Soba Tagardo, Chimasu Yamne, and Tachima Chematua, and then a guard would do. That Gaza to get a Hakovach and it didn't Magaja Casoleta, Lela Boton, a trot to what she ate, and take a dear guy, give the carriage to Haku to happen. Subeniam touch on my head and Nujala Jimania Sobata Chola, Gejego Sobata, Tungan, Danego Sobatica, the Gemadona, they never talk to Mudo. 하동보다 다 되게 된 거죠. 뭐 쳐봤잖아요. 디 타달 배주 지고 또.
So and so we have to be realistic on the one hand where we're at, and then have an understanding of what we need to do in order to keep progressing. You know, that we know we have to generate the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing emptiness, to practice the 6 perfections and the 4 ways of accumulating disciples and so on. But, you know, when we have, you know, obstacles to our practice like that, then we have kind of like, as it were, obstacles to our progress. So, for example, if we have issues around ethical conduct and unable to abide in perfect ethical conduct, that means that we have an obstacle that prevents us from progress. If we have issues around generosity, and again, that's presenting an obstacle to our being able to perfect the perfection of generosity, and again hinders our progress. And that all of this, of course, is in for the purpose of attaining enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. But if we have, you know, issues around renunciation, for example, then you know, we're not able to fully gain conviction in being able to gain liberation from cyclic existence, and so we're going to remain stuck in cyclic existence. If we have issues around the mind of enlightenment, then we can't engage in a genuine Mahayana practice. If we have issues around the emptiness itself, then there's no liberation from cyclic existence. All of this is important, that if we have, you know, that all of the 6 perfections, we need to be able to eradicate obstacles to our practice of all of these practices, to not only to accept them, but to gain absolute conviction in their absolute necessity to bring to perfection. And that this is no less the case with patience, where we generate that, you know, the expertise in the 3 different types of patience, and being able to put them into practice in all situations, to kind of like really, how do you say, dedicate ourselves to the effort that it is required in order to be able to perfectly practice and to remove any obstacles to that practice.
어디를 공부하시죠? 숨바되나 소베 미겐 제베 초바여 반에서 다 되네 이마인사 되는 너바 개겐데 아니 랑게 소바 주베게 미겐 제고도 와서 로다 딜 편도 제고도 와서 또 딜 로다 어디를 제고도 와서 되네 이마인사 콘초바여 반에서 자월래 대외라도 당선라 고다 고 당선 요와 이나야 당선 딜 때는 다디 겐지기도 와 어디 대외라도 당선라 때는 소바 개베나 당 대니 소베 주인배 담배 취시 쳐버렸어.
The next outline is a 3rd outline, which states that that by being able to therefore observe the enemy, that so-called enemy, as an observed object condition of patience, or in other words, an essential aspect of our generating patience, they are worthy of veneration. Verse number 111 states, thus, since patient acceptance is produced in dependence upon one with a very hateful mind, that person should be worthy of veneration, just like the sacred Dharma, because she is a cause of patience.
어디까지 내제는 지만님의 소바스도 혼내바 계획에 삼로 여바 다가란 게 지기도 와 다가란 게 아니 내제 소소 소바 검토바이나 내제 지만님의 소바도 자기도 와 좀전 대회나 로 그래서 라도 당외 셈디 군내랑와 임바인자 군내랑데 내바 제바인자 디 온게 디 디 꾸들라네 지금 소소로 너바 지금 될라 때네 아니 소소가 서바 검토와이나 너제 지만이 서바디 깨토도 서바께 차기도 깨바나 너제 되니 서베 주차되기도 왔어. 그러다 너제 매바이나 너제를 지만이 서바서 그 민코라 다야 코라 다가라고 너제 그 너바 제와 다가란 게 아니 서바 고바디 너제를 지만이 서바차기도 되는자 근데 그 너바 제와 다가란 게 너제를 지만이 서베 주차되고 왔어. 근데 참 담배 쳐 군조 신도 쳐봐요 그래서 그러다 담배 쳐 군조 뒤에 담배 쳐 군조 뒤야 랑게 아니 저거 산제 고마 두발라 다간제 저 편바치고 요라 뒤를 쳐바치고 다가는 저게 내가 잡았다가 랑게 내자리 지만이 써봐고 써봐디 아니 가서 닦아도 나는 쳐도 줘봐대 아니 세배냠래 임바자 디 좋아지기도 와 뒤에서 아니 쳐 군조나 신전에 쳐봐요 그래서 셔봐고 참
And so it's saying here then, for this reason here, that if somebody with a very hateful motivation mind should engage in harm, that we should therefore generate patience. And this is the particular patience of not returning harm for harm. And that here, that by being able to see that they are a cause for that very patience that one is generating, that this is an excellent cause for that, and that because of that, because that's just like they are acting just like the holy Dharma, that they are therefore worthy of our veneration and respect.
로아당 맞아 뇌제를 지문이 써봤디 아니 라라 뇌바기겐 간사디게 뇌바게고 삼상게 삼로 여바 다가랑게 아니 뇌제를 지문이 써봤디 딜라테는 용되기도 와 용되기도 와 오다 간제 지금 뇌제를 지문이 써봤을 때 산제를 때는 용해면도 아니 지금 가서 최군조라 때는 용해면도 긴두군조라 때는 용해면도 랑게 파마라 소바 소소를 셈단 예부 증을 때는 용어면도 다 소소를 내가 깨고서 소소를 막아긴 다가를 때는 용 되기도 와 다가를 때는 용 되기도 와 근데 이번에서 뭐다 다가라다 랑게 소바지 검토는 소베 규차 되기도 와 와다 근데서 냠는 지금 중간에 때바나 대사치 보시고 차대요 그래서 다 냠는 맞이가 중간에 때바나 내가 지금래 냠는 지금 중간에 때바나 다 편통을 차대기도 와 산제 줄을 줬대가 저거다 어디 이마데 뭐 저배 돈에 뒤자치 못 쓰고 그랬어 어디 속도 못해.
And so this is the case where, as the practitioner, one really sees how precious and sacred this harmer is, the one in front of me, right here and now. And they are giving me this incredible cause for enlightenment, because I am able to respond with patience, and that they are facilitating my being able to generate that cause. And I don't get this from any of the triple gem, from the Buddha or the Dharma or the Sangha members. This is not readily available, but here, right here now, I have this precious being who is willing to engage in such harm, to allow me to be able to generate the mind of patience, the cause for enlightenment itself. And as a practitioner, this is the way I see it, and this is the way I respond. If as a non-practitioner, then of course you've got somebody there who's pressing your buttons.
다른데 이마이자 심제스게 진치모레스게 와다가자 심제스게 진치모레스게 다가자 저거 가소래 로다 가소래 지 가소래 소소게 아니 지 가소데 취다 tumba 제토나 소소 취다 tumba 제토와나 팬도와 마세 뉘게바데 소소 팬도가 차기도 다 랑게 취다 tumba 제토와 이나 심제스게 팬도와다 시험고자 뉘게바데 팬도와 차기도 Then you must is in noble at Haredwa. Loton Tigamana is in noble at Hare, so that it was.
And so when we reflect on sentient beings as being greatly kind, and that here, in the context of those who are actually beneficial towards us, of course, they are kind. But here also now, we can include those who actually harm us, and possibly even greatly, even more kind, because they are giving us this great opportunity. And so this is why, in the 8 verses of mind transformation, sentient beings are regarded as even greater than a wish-fulfilling jewel.
What are Jumzula Dane? Jumzula Dane, and in Yavanya to the Tadene is a Simjing Jin Samatawa Yina. Pama Jebek of the Tinchabo, Pama Majebek of the Tinchabo. Roa. There's a mother social never give a yine, social tutor to my jetovina, never give a dep and to a killer trotting. That's usually the one.
And so, this is when we talk about the reasoning behind this, is that we can talk about all sentient beings have been greatly kind to us when they have acted as our parents. But even when they haven't, they have been greatly kind to us. It's obvious when they have been beneficial to us, but even those that have harmed us now are those who are greatly kind to us also. We can see that now.
Simjang Takaja Nangze Jese Narado Jeva Ganga, Pantoga Chatic.
And so therefore,
never give a Pantoga Chatuta, Simjang Jese Gangala, Pamoto Chia Medics, Rangi, Lord Chuda to Masamo Tantuna.
So that we can see now that there is no sentient being that it hasn't been and isn't greatly beneficial to us, whether they have benefited us or harmed us. We can take it all as a wonderful benefit for us, grist for our mill, to be able to proceed along the path. And so therefore there's no sentient being left out that we can say has not been of great benefit to us.
But that's also the summer tangana, social rangla, the pantoyage, but Sitim Song, Sevago, and the Chicasode, Chuggy, Yamne Chavan, that's also a pantogua. In a social Nomon care, Condro Sasjavana, social new Kigitoa, Ranches again, social new Kigitoa, social Jizak, social pantogumua. That's same thing as Jizakanga, so the summer tangana pantogua.
And so as long as we can maintain, this skillful way of thinking, of course, this is the case. But from our own point of view, that, we may be able to, abide in some ethical conduct and so on, but that, the benefit that we do is outweighed by the actions that we are engaged in, motivated by mental affliction. And so there's a great deal less benefit coming from our side, but everything that comes from others, we interpret it as being greatly beneficial to us.
Then, Marandula, Semjen, Soso Javana, Semjen, Soso, Semjen, Javanga, Soso Pantogu. Soso Javanga, Soso Pantogumundu. Then they invited Rala, Semjen, Randa, Semjen, Soso Pantogu, Semjen didn't charge.
And so when we make the comparison between, how the sentient beings are greatly helpful and beneficial towards us, whereas we aren't that beneficial and helpful towards ourselves because of our mental afflictions. And therefore, the conclusion is which is more beneficial and which is more kind. It has to, if the conclusion is that sentient beings are.
Rangi pena sudim song soba kom yabuchana pantogoto. Dia semjela tene yogodo, rangi chiga jemendo. Semjela tene mendo, ranchugo tuktuya kayamendo. Ta semjenge deta yabuchawa pera masa, tubuchaba de sosoge suda tumba samotana, tubuchaba de semjenge jesa nga sosa pantoba soeto. Rangi jesa nga rangla pantoba soe mendo. Tila tene semjenda rangi chana semjenge charidwa.
And so, our good qualities of ethical conduct and generosity, patience, etc., anyway, relies on the object of other sentient beings. And so they are greatly beneficial in even the benefit that we do for ourselves, But, whether sentient beings are beneficial towards us or harmful towards us, that is interpreted as being all very beneficial towards us. And so, they are therefore, all done to benefit us, and that we are not doing everything to benefit ourselves. And so therefore, sentient beings are far more important than we are. Well, really thinking about this carefully, and really, and to reach that conclusion then of how precious, how valuable then, how singularly important are sentient beings. That's the conclusion. And so that means puts more life into, that motivation we have to attain enlightenment for the benefit of these very sentient beings, to really benefit and to repay the benefit of these great sentient beings. And to realize that then even when sentient beings harm us, we are reminded that we have taken a commitment to reply to that harm with benefit and towards that sentient being. And so this really being able to establish sentient beings as being so beneficial, to really understand that, to really know that, is something which is a very powerful inspiration for us to bring about benefit, for us to dedicate ourselves more and more to generating the love and the compassion that can really make a difference to sentient beings. And so that then this brings ourselves, automatically closer in general and in particular to sentient beings. And if we can again and again bring these kind of contemplations to mind, then it's something that automatically feeds into that love that we can have for sentient beings, that compassion that we can have to remove their suffering as well. And so let's leave it at that for today. And so once again, to bring our minds to focus on the figure of the Guru Munindra Shakyamuni Buddha in the space in front.
ane chik kamsonge da chik joari ro kaba kewa yinba yina yang ane chik da kacha kasade dunga da kacha le medewa resha samsacha da kashene dunga kashene chaba tuche dunga ane da kacha kasade gyue dunga ane chaba tuche dunga machawa sukamidu tende yinba yinsa chaba tuche dunga le dewa ja machungba yina da ngune dane kibasada yongya koramidu samota kompashe ane dene yinba yinsa tele nyeba chue nyenjong kompashe.
And so then we're reflecting on the situation that we have, being in denizens of cyclic existence. Wherever we're born in here, we are prone to suffering, whether it's the suffering of change, or pervasive suffering. We understand that, unless we get separated from that third type, the pervasive suffering, that there is no release from being born into a cyclic existence, into this suffering reality.
我到等的严重也被落地，严重也被落地，俺一个半截了就呢，俺结果了一个半截就，半截杨树就完了，俺这个白马大马结巴起来就说337。
And so this then, in reflection on this, brings forth the mind of renunciation. And that then is symbolized by the syllable bam, and that in turn is transformed into the lotus mandala seat on our crown.
这个我得了这，我得了这，但呢，他感觉这个甚至他们这个等到三界国把中的他们的这个意思，俺的看法都在去，绿的这边，深的这边，我得了把等，俺这了嘛因为俺去读个，他把在去的，俺感觉俺是个的，他感觉你个么多，他蛮你的个买不对嘛的，要不的鸟也做不到。 다 어다 매와 그래서 많이 와도 가려서는 그 유대는 주바 매바 인상 다 유대는 주바서는 되자면도 다 같이 똑바 파샤자를 보다 유대는 주바서 근데 다 같이 되자면도 선전 배 내가 가서 커다 줘봐 삼로다 네가 셈도 샤.
And then this notion of wanting to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, the I or the self wanting this, we start to investigate this idea of the self. Where does it abide? In the body, in the mind, and searching for this kind of objectively existing self. We do not find it. We do not find it, but does this then mean that it does not exist at all? No, it does not exist objectively. It is merely imputed by thought. And that when we reach that point of that it being merely imputed, this lacking the way in which we thought it existed, that we can place the mind on that for a moment.
어다 된데 가서데 된데게 어느 곳으로 데 어느 동반이 예배 로데 아니 이게 홍질을 줘서 선저 홍 용수 줘발래 아니这个你们经过약간 와지 아니 된데 배매도 내수서 공부하자.
And then from that contemplation, of course, of emptiness, that arises the seed syllable hung. And from that hung then is symbolized by the sun mandala seat resting on our crown.
데라 이거 홍그 셈되고 저거 고바시 어들레자 다데네 아니 저거 어다 유대는 주바 매바 인바 인사다 어 경기 대바 장체래 그 유대는 주바 매바 인사 그 교견다 교견 된데라 된데 중앙지 차대도 어 다데네 인바 인사 지금 연종게 장주가 셈게 양답에 따와게 사조 남가 림게 저와이나 어다 산제 고바스가 된데 탑주지도 탑주지바 타치와리샤 그 유대는 맞아 왕기 이마 인상 다 근데 이마 인상 왔다 근데 좀지 연은 맞좀 더早年 지금도 삼사전 됐습니다 탐제가 또 산제 고마마도 지금도 좀 야 요니도 좀 도와 지금 서로 고마시.
And then so this not existing objectively that allows for the process of cause and effect to come into play. It validates that that phenomena arise independent upon cause and condition. Therefore, be able to generate that mind of renunciation, that mind of enlightenment, that correct view of emptiness, to be able to proceed along the paths and grounds to enlightenment itself, is all made possible. And therefore, I see how I can now more confidently dedicate myself to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings.
어느 데네게 어텔레지고 은 데네게 니에베 듬바티 아니 가서데 이게 아지죠 아디 용서 주발에 아니 가서데 다 다외진 거 냐가 주소 섬사차
and that I can quickly attain that state of enlightenment. This then transforms into the seed syllable A, which is again transforms into the moon mandala seed placed on my crown.
我的公巴些，而且呢，他半天在外拉马人不是，大概就我边，可是我故事都就我就在都顺带着呢，当别告诉我拍，你别告诉书，顺便告诉带着去呢，三节恐怕马头我的就送，他也不喜欢就说，这个说的他，那么下家生给，那三节个恐怕马头我把到他结束送，他也不喜欢说的搞好。
And then reciting the invocation verse thrice. O glorious and precious root guru, come take a lotus and moon seed placed here on my crown. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first recitation, the figure moves from the space in front. At the end of the second, they have arrived at our pre-prepared seat on the crown. And at the end of the third, we have the certainty that the Shakyamuni Buddha, the Guru Munindra Buddha, will actually remain with me and protect me until I attain the state of enlightenment. That's wonderful, wonderful news. And then we make the offerings of the 7 limbs of practice and the mandala offering.
아니 야라도와 멘데데 저 표발할 때는 랑게 주보가 라마 투표 온주 투주라 아니 랑게 주보 표발할 때 라마 투표 못 투주라 대화통 안 대화디 동배 대화를 대동 뉴스만 시 계속 서서 공부하자.
And as a result of our offering of practice and the mandala offering, the figure of Shakyamuni Buddha on our crown experiences a sense of a bliss which combines with voidness and is able to abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. And then again, we reflect on the topic of renunciation, of how, we have to realize the sense or the nature of suffering that we are mired in, and to gain a sense of definite release from there, that renunciation, which is symbolized at our heart center by the syllable BAM, and this then is transformed into the lotus mandala seat.
다 데네 맞다 심제 탐제도 산제 고바 중에서 나한테 되게 진짜 고바시 아니 제가 제주를 많이 받아가는 거라 셈자고다 유대는 주바서는 뭐 뒤사면도 커다 주고 공바시 제가 셈 가작가 점대가 셈자.
And then reflecting on this self, wishing to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, and analyzing to find it, not finding it, and merely realizing that it does not exist even at the atomical level, and merely then abiding in this, the mere negation of the object of negation. And then this emptiness is symbolized by the syllable hung. A hung then is transformed into the sun mandala seat at our heart center.
And then
we have that quick sense of conviction in the possibilities of enlightenment, and that I will be able to do it. Not only that, but as quickly I will attain the state of enlightenment to benefit all sentient beings. That is symbolized by the seed syllable A, which is again transformed into the moon mandala seed at our heart center.
반대자가 라마르보자 다가 닌가 비메트죠. 가르치고 구소도 정도로 자도 손대잖아. 담bio 가서 패 니베 가서 쇼 수베가 때도잖아. 산제 고마마도 저다 야부시고 정수 고마자. 되네 니 뼈마다 제데 마 가조는 남주 닌게 내다는시 디가도 도지장가 가보 장가바지 가제. 디 타고도 뜨베 장가 따야다 엄무는 마음을에서 좀 숨게 거다. 되네 진짜 잠에 가서 엄마 알아봐서 나티디데 좀 숨게 거다. 되네 때내가 서 엄마 예다마
And then, of course, we again utter the invocation verse. So, glorious and precious root guru, come take your lotus and moon seed placed here at my heart. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first recitation, the figure moves from the crown down into the central channel. At the end of the second, they have arrived at our pre-prepared seat at the heart center. And at the end of the third, again, we have that beautiful certainty that the Buddha will remain until we attain enlightenment. We rejoice in that. Then the petals of the lotus fold over and are sealed at their tips by a white 5-pronged semivajra. And that is surrounded by 3 mantras: the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha in a clockwise direction, the mantra of Manjushri in an anti-clockwise direction, and the mantra of the pendant arising in a clockwise direction.
구송도게 레웨세트다 랑게 집원에 간디가 발라 웨세트네 어느 토마메바 디바데 켜바도야 다가제 소저월로 마침바도 미상오다 주연 참아서 가제 나선데서 로달라서 다가제 제베 칸나마다 라신 칸나마도 베니바 세딜라사바 띵가마 토마메바 사베 디바데 디바데 마 자우섬사자 아니 가소레 다가제 가서데 소다가 도마다 가와 자주스베 라바다 가와 상하에 다체다 가 파다마라마고 저버 로벨라마 조아성바서 군조서 도나 토리다 탑에 계속 저그 안바 예동 그저사다 마 장지 다바 중수 삼사 아니 르게 나자 생고 동네 중지 코마니고 자롱 딜레 겨타자 마 짠. 다 야고 시부 중수 사다 다 최주베 된게 말로바 상네 야고 시부 중수 사서 고마차.
And then from the figure of the Munindra Shakyamuni within the lotus petals starts to emanate countless rays of light coming from body, speech, and mind, permeating every cell of our bodies from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet, and affecting an absolute thorough purification of all negativities and obscurations that we have accumulated since beginningless time. Amongst them, the 10 non-virtues of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, of lying, harsh speech, divisive speech, idle gossip, covetousness, malicious intent, and wrong view, of all the negativities that have been naturally arisen or proscribed by the Buddha, all the negativities associated with this life, of the life previous to this, the one previous to that, the one previous to that, going right back to beginningless time, all the infractions and degenerations of Pratimoksha vows, Bodhisattva vows, the Tantric vows, all the disrespect that we have shown to our parents right up to our gurus, and all of the negativities associated with our physical element, causing obstructions to our being able to practice, and then likewise a mental illness and sickness and disease affecting our capacity to practice. They are all completely and utterly purified. And similarly, all of the imbalances that we have had in the channels and the winds and the drops and the elements within the body, they are all rectified and rendered pliant for practice in the body. And we have this beautiful sense of really having eradicated anything, even at the imprint level, that could interfere with perfect Dharma practice.
Okay. And that then that new to Sanjay Kuma Tawala, Tamaka Nashi, the Gunchi, Tamanashi, Gunta, Jan, Kanata, Tabaram Chabashi, Chawa, Yawashi, so the Kumacha, then also the Shindu London in language. Lama Shajas and Kuda Henjik, so the Lama Shajas and Kula Jutu, so the Shindu Terra sent the language, Lama Shajas and Kuda Henjik, so the send the Lama Shaja to get Tula Jut. Rangel Lunga is a Lama Shajas and Kuzu to war, Yeme Jutu, so the Dewate, the Vetomba, the Tunjus Maishiki, so what the Kumacha.
And of course, the most serious obstruction to our being able to quickly attain the state of enlightenment, being our ordinary perception, is kind of set aside, and we adopt a pure perception in turn. And then through the combination of my own most subtle wind acting as the substantial cause, together with the body of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of a Buddha. And then through the combination of my own most subtle mind acting as the substantial cause, together with the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind is transformed into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. And now I see my own body, speech, and mind as being inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of an enlightened being. This induces a sense of bliss, which combines with voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
Waja, ana rang lama shaja sanga kusong tu rangwa yime juwa te nala ra shime wa kumbha she. Ane te rangi lama shaja sanga kusong kusong yime juwa te rangi ta ninga koda lama shaja sanga padu me pa chone simja tamja lama shaja sanga cha sangwa re shuwa la tene teta tanja Lama Shaja Sang Kusung to Yeme Jusu, so the Teta Nesa Net, the new Junta, Lama Shaja Sang Tavish to Jusu, Tassimja Tamja, Lama Shaja Sang Sala Kugas, Nimatirin, go to Kako, Simjatan Lama Shaja Sang Sala Koba, teach the Suzy Kawakato, to go so Java, you did a matter of talk Pata Tamre, or they were to Mateto News, Shika, so Kumacha.
And so the place I am in is also transformed of all faults and becomes the enlightened abode of a Buddha. And then seeing myself as a fully enlightened being, and likewise understanding that I do not exist in the way that I appear, I sent out countless rays of light from my heart center, going out into all the 6 realms of existence. And as the lights dissolve into all of the sentient beings, they arise spontaneously as fully enlightened Buddhas. The places that they are in are completely purified of all fault and become again the enlightened abode of an enlightened being. And so this again brings great satisfaction that today is the day I've been able to lead all sentient beings to that state of enlightenment. I realize that the leading of all sentient beings to that state of enlightenment, the merit that has facilitated that, or the virtue that has facilitated that, and myself as the agent of that virtue, completely empty of inherent existence. They're merely imputed by thought. And this induces a sense of bliss, which combines with voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. And so, of course, we're operating at the level of aspiration and imagination. Here is no way that we can attain this kind of realization just like that. And yet I make a very, very profound and sincere dedication that I will do everything in my power to really make this manifest for real as quickly as possible. And knowing that there is no choice but to attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. And therefore, having taken that on, I realize I must perfect the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing emptiness as absolute essential causes to attain that enlightenment. And that means I throw myself into and dedicate to be able to use every single thing that happens in life, be it positive or negative or whatever the situation is, even at the point of death, that I will see all as conducive conditions to be able to enhance and deepen my understanding of the mind of enlightenment and the wisdom realizing emptiness. You are Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of compassion, not aimed at true existence, and Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception, Sankapa, crown jewel of the sages of the land of snows, Losang Drakpa at your feet, and make request.
That's all. Lord, touch it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Everyone, thank you. Take care.
So